Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So I am participating in 2 readathons in August, and this is my August Readathon update number 2 video. So I am going to be discussing what I read in the second week of August, what I finished, and sort of what I am currently working on, and what prompts those fulfilled. So let's get started. So last week I finished Full Disclosure by Camryn Garrett. This is a book about a young woman. I think she's in high school. I think she's like 17, and she is HIV positive. And so this book is sort of how she navigates being positive and her crush, and like when to disclose that information to her friends and her peers and this guy that she has a crush on, who they sort of start this relationship with. I really like the book. It is the Page Turner Book Club's August pick. So the live show is going to be coming up here at the end of the month. The live show is on August 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern. I think that's the time I have written in my calendar. So if that is not correct, I will put a thing here saying that I'm wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong. So you should tune in to the Page Turner Book Club's live discussion about Full Disclosure, which I enjoyed, and I think we will have some interesting discussions about. Full Disclosure fulfills the prompt of new kid in town for the Tropical Readathon, and fulfills the disability rep in the Summer Fling Readathon because the main character has HIV. To fulfill the mixed media / audiobook challenge for Tropical Readathons, I listened to A Hunger Like No Other by Kresley, which is the first book in her Immortals After Dark series. I'd heard multiple romance YouTubers talk about this book and how the whole series was really great and it was paranormal romance. And I actually started probably the very first official romance book I ever read that was an adult romance was a paranormal romance. And at the time I really enjoyed them, and then years later I was like, there was some problems with that. So I was a little apprehensive going into this book, but I really enjoyed A Hunger Like No Other. The story features the main male character is Lachlan. He's a werewolf. He's been held prisoner for 150 years by vampires, and then he escapes when he scents his true fated mate on the streets of Paris above him. And she is a significantly younger immortal who is half vampire, half Valkyrie. So he and she are fated to be together, and he knows this, but she doesn't know this. So he's trying to get used to a modern world and get used to her, and she's not getting used to him. And he is really struggling with the fact that his true mate is a vampire when he has been tortured by the vampires who are his werewolves enemies. So it was a really good book. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of sexual tension. There was a lot of I wasn't sure where it was going. There was sort of arbitrary time constraints put on our characters, so they had to develop their relationship. They had to get their relationship ideally to a certain point by the time they got to the full moon, or the whatever the time constraints were. So I really enjoyed it. I really liked the audiobook. I felt like the narrator did a really great job, and overall I would give this book 4.5 stars, 4 stars. I haven't 100% decided on a rating. I really enjoyed it, and I want to continue the series after August, but I'm not totally sure of my star rating. I think it's a solid 4 stars, and I might adjust that in the future. So like I said, that satisfies the audiobook challenge for the Tropical Readathon, and I'm going to put A Hunger Like No Other in the dark and dangerous section for the Summer Fling Readathon because it's a paranormal romance. The other books that I finished in the second week of August were for the Historical Romance Readathon, which I found out about on Friday, the day that it started. And so I kind of had done a smidgen of rearranging of my TBRs to fit the prompts better, but also to participate in the Historical Romance Readathon. So I finished on Saturday the Historical Romance Readathon book group book, and that was Lady Sophia's Lover by Lisa Kleypas, which was only my second Lisa Kleypas book ever. Lady Sophia's Lover I enjoyed. It had a different sort of structure than I was really expecting, because at the start of the book, it's very clear that the main male character, is into our main female character, and she's like applying for a job, and of course it's like, you know, olden times London where a woman couldn't do the job of being the police chief's assistant, but he decides to give her the job anyway. And then when we switch to her perspective, she's really happy she's gotten the job because she already hates this guy and like has this revenge plot. And I was like, oh, not what I was expecting. Okay. I don't feel like that's a spoiler. You learn all that in like the first like 25 pages, like all in chapter 1. So what I meant by different structure was that this book follows much more of their relationship further along. Like, of course, it's the two of them fall in love and she has to, you know, kind of ditch her revenge plot. But what I think is interesting is that I haven't really, like most of the romance books that I read and historical romance books I read, the marriage happens like at the very end. Or if the marriage happens earlier in the book, it's because there's like been some sort of scandal and they have to get married, or it's like a marriage of convenience, and then over the course of the book they're going to like continue to fall in love. So in this book it was interesting because they like meet and fall in love and get married, and then like are working through being newlyweds, and like, you know, things are progressing and we see like a big chunk of their like relationship progress over the course of the book's plot happening. So I thought that was kind of different and kind of interesting, and I liked it. I enjoyed the book, and I would rate it. I don't know how long this is going to stick with me. I didn't dislike it in any way. So to me, it was like a very like good historical romance. Didn't have any problems with it. I enjoyed it, but it's not going to like stick in my memory. So 3.5 stars. And so I'm going to be using Lady Sophia's Lover for the Tropical Readathon challenge of Blast from the Past, which is to read a book from like another generation. So this was historical, so that's where I'm going to stick this book for the Tropical Readathon. And it is a historical romance, and so that will check off that category for the Summer Fling Readathon too. And the last book that I finished in the second week of August was also for Historical Romance Readathon, and that was The Beast of Beswick by Amalie Howard. I am going to discuss this more in a live show buddy read that is coming up August 23rd, and it is being hosted by Jenn from the book Refuge, so I'll put a link to her channel down in the description, because that's where it's going to be, and you should tune in to hear my thoughts on The Beast of Beswick. This is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast and The Taming of the Shrew, which I've not read The Taming of the Shrew, but I saw 10 Things I Hate About You. So I definitely picked up on a number of themes from both of those original stories. And this was good. It was steamy. It was pretty quick. And I felt like the two main characters really like connected to each other in a way that I really appreciated. And like were emotionally vulnerable with each other that I appreciated. So that is the second book that I finished, or the second book I finished for Historical Romance Readathon. That is the last book that I finished for the second week of August. I already fulfilled the Historical Romance Square for Summer Fling Readathon with Lady Sophia's Lover, but I'm going to go ahead and count The Beast of Beswick for the retelling challenge for the Tropical Readathon, which I was pleased about because my original TBR pick was kind of about. So here in the third week of August, I am going to continue working on the readathon books and fulfilling my prompts. I've been working on the Midnight Sun book. I am like about 3/4 of the way through. I've vlogged a couple times about this. I'm not like loving it so much. That's why it's like dragging out. It's just that I was going to work on it over the weekend, and then I did Historical Romance Readathon. So yeah, Midnight Sun is still on the list because that's going to be my big chunky 500+ page book prompt challenge thing. Ugh. So I got to work on Midnight Sun. And the next book that I plan to read this upcoming week, the third week of August, is the Tropical Readathon Team Romance book, which is One to Watch by Kate Stayman-London. I got this book. I've seen sort of mixed reviews. I plan to read it this week and get those teen points. I also started the audiobook of P.S. I Like You by the author that I'm blanking on. I will put the picture here so you can see it. I started that audiobook today. It's a YA. It has the anonymous messaging challenge. I'm almost 50% of the way through because it's relatively short. And I think it's fine, but I also am just like I think I'm kind of over like YA contemporary. Like none of the characters are like super compelling to me. I feel very confident that I know like who the main character is anonymously messaging with. Like I feel like that is really clear. I mean, I guess I will really enjoy the book if it turns out not to be that character because I'll not have seen that twist coming. But I'm like, you know, it's going to be like, oh, it was that guy who she's been like antagonistically, you know, enemies to lovers sort of situation with. So I don't know, I'm enjoying it, but like, and it's a really quick read, so I'm fine with, you know, just kind of going forward, but I'm not loving P.S. I Like You. I also have the audiobook of Hairpin Curves by Elia Winters. I have that on audiobook. I think there's a buddy read happening and possibly like a live author discussion of this book that I just kind of found out about today. So if I can hurry up and read that this third week of August, then I can participate in that because it's in the weekend, at the end of the third week of August, I think. But that's next on my audiobook list anyway. So there you have it. Those are the books that I have finished in the second week of August and what I'm sort of planning for the you know, that's on my TBR for the third week of August. I feel like I'm making good progress with the readathons. I feel like I'm making good progress, but I don't know that I'm actually like checking off all of the challenges. So here's the like chart and like what I have checked off, but I feel like I'm like making good progress and having fun doing this readathon, or both readathons, which is the point. So if any of the books that I've mentioned in this video are ones that you hated or loved, comment down below. If you see any of the prompts that I had not finished yet or any of the challenges I hadn't finished yet and you have like a really awesome, amazing, like burning recommendation, comment down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do all the interactions for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.